The mainstream media is once again ignoring Bernie Sanders' massive rallies that he is currently having in his anti-oligarchy tour. And does anybody else remember a time when Bernie Sanders was being and his massive rallies were being ignored by the mainstream media? I'm old enough to remember back all the way back to 2016, in fact, when CNN showed an empty podium of Donald Trump for over 30 minutes instead of choosing a rally that Bernie Sanders had over 20,000 people at. It might have even been more than that. Really, the mainstream media is an ally to the corporate elite in this country. And when it comes down to it, Sanders' agenda does not align with the corporate media's agenda in terms of how they want this country to operate. So let's go over here to this Newsweek article that shows some of these videos. Videos of Bernie Sanders' large Midwest rallies take off online. Bernie Sanders, a Vermont independent who caucuses with the Democratic Party, large Midwest rallies have taken videos of his large Midwest rallies to take on the oligarchy have taken off on social media over the weekend. Many Democrats have called billionaire Elon Musk's rise to political power a shadow government. Musk, President Trump's ally, leads the non-governmental task force, the Department of Government Efficiency. We know that. In response to Musk's efforts, Sanders announced in February he's announcing a national tour to take on the oligarchy, as the senator, like many of his counterparts, described the billionaire's recent actions with Doge to dismantle the government agencies as illegal and unconstitutional. In my opinion, what Musk and those around him are aggressively striving for is not novel. It is not complicated, and it is not new. It is what the ruling classes throughout history have always wanted and have always believed is theirs by right. More power, more control, and more wealth, Sanders said in a video announcing the tour. They don't want ordinary people. That's you in democracy getting in their way. The tour began on February 21 in Omaha, Nebraska, and has continued with stops in Kenosha, Wisconsin on Friday and Altoona, Wisconsin on Saturday. Sanders also stopped in Warren, Michigan yesterday. Videos and photos of those rallies have since taken off on X, formerly Twitter. Great rally in Kenosha. 4,000 people came out to say no tax breaks for billionaires. No cuts to Medicaid, no oligarchy, no authoritarianism, no more billionaires buying elections, Sanders wrote on X Friday with photos of the rallies. That post has since garnered 5.5 million views and 63,000 likes as of Sunday morning. Let's go ahead and look and listen at some of these videos of these Bernie Sanders rallies that are being ignored by the mainstream media.
Thank you, Kenosha.
Wow.
I didn't know there were this many people in Kenosha. Wow, what a crowd. And by the way, we got another 1,000 people in the overflow area.
Wow. 1,000 people in the overflow. Let's go ahead and listen to this one. Bernie speaking for a couple minutes here.
Musk is so arrogant that he is even intervening in a Supreme Court election right here in the state of Wisconsin. Against a candidate who has the very, very extreme idea that maybe women should be able to control their own bodies, not the government. Now, now whatever your view may be on this Supreme Court election, I think what everybody, no matter what your position should be, should make it clear to the wealthiest person on earth that he cannot buy an election here in Wisconsin.
Hmm.
And I want you to think about what that means. If this guy can intervene in a Supreme Court election in one state, you tell me what mayor's race, what governor's race, what Senate race he cannot buy.
Yeah. Yeah, if Wisconsin, if the White House, where does the influence of the rich on our American political system, where does it end, right? Where does it end? Let's go ahead and look at least one more here. Look at all those people lined up to see Bernie Sanders speak. Wow, oh wow, oh wow. So a resounding response to Bernie Sanders standing up to the oligarchy that is forming in America, has already formed in many cases, but that Donald Trump and Elon Musk very much wish to accelerate and really make it so that we don't have any form of a functioning democracy whatsoever in America, and we're a country that looks more like Russia or China in its elections, where the people have no input whatsoever on what's happening and the results of elections. And Bernie Sanders has been a consistent messenger of that same message really since the 60s. And man, it's a shame we couldn't have gotten him in 2016 or in 2020. And it really is a shame that the Democratic Party seemingly has fought harder against Bernie Sanders and his campaign than they are fighting against Donald Trump right now. And I think it's because the viewpoints and the wishes of some of the Democratic elite and the Republican elite are really, there's a lot of overlaps in the Venn diagram, right? There might be some things over here on the other sides, but really the Democratic elite and the Republican elite potentially, and I would arguably say likely do have much more overlap in the middle of that Venn diagram of things that they stances that they have. That middle of the Venn diagram might be more populated than either other side. And that is a main issue with the Democratic Party, is that they've cozied up to corporate interests, and they've cozied up to big dollar interests that have contributed a lot of money to their campaigns, and it has led to this vacuum of support for the middle class and support for working people in America, where people have felt abandoned, right? People have felt abandoned by both political parties, and a lot of that sentiment has been what's led to Donald Trump and MAGA being able to take over in the first place. And Sanders realizes this, and this is why I think what he's doing with this Stop the Oligarchy tour is resounding so much with the American people, because so few have spoken to that reality of corporate interests affecting both the Democrats and the Republicans. And when people do speak to it, as Sanders is doing, it resonates very, very deeply, as is shown by the amount of people showing up to Bernie Sanders rallies still in 2025.